Hi and welcome. So, Python plus Django, the Infobot online session. My name is Rohit, and that's the address of the GitHub repo which is there, which will hold the session content, which will hold absolutely everything together for our this training session. Okay, so first some introductory stuff and the Python web application frameworks. So, how many are there? Before getting into that, so what exactly is Python? And in case you have not been able to use Python as of now for any of your programming tasks, or you are a learner who has never programmed in any programming language, so this is the best place to start actually. So this is where we are going to go. So it says the beginner's guide to Python. Okay, and there is a Chinese translation, then getting Python, how to install Python, and learning Python. So I'll let you go through this yourself whenever you can in case you need to. And I'll just skip this bit and I'll get back to my presentation. Okay. So Python is basically a programming language which is in today's date considered as the most general purpose use programming language, and is also a favorite amongst people who are learning data science or machine learning or any of these you know any of these modern I don't really know how to classify them, but sciences which are to do around with data. So you basically want to do absolutely anything with data. So that is what, and of course, having said that, I would advise that you pick up Python and R both, and if you can, then maybe Scala and MATLAB also. But to begin with, Python and R for sure. So, anyways, so this is in a series of sessions that I'm going to conduct online, and of course, there's enough material already there, so there's no dearth of learning resources out there on the internet. Okay, so what are the web application frameworks? So, what exactly is a web application framework? A framework for creating web apps wherein you have got some kind of you already have some batteries attached, so to say, comes with batteries attached. What that basically means is you don't necessarily have to create everything from scratch, because that can be very painful, creating things right from scratch. And like on the Django project, they say it is the framework for perfectionists who are in a hurry. Uh, and I can vouch for it. Django is definitely uh, one of the easier ones to learn for sure. And it is much more rich in features in comparison to, say, Flask or Bottle or some other frameworks which are there. So definitely Django, and this is the documentation. They have excellent community. They have wonderful documentation, and this is uh, uh, the latest version 1.11. I usually work with 1.10 or 1.9, so that is what we are going to use. And of course, I started off with 1.8, but I think I did only one app with 1.8. Okay, so why choose Django over Flask and others? Excellent documentation in case you really want to do some serious web app creation and you want to scale up your web apps. Then Django is the thing. And uh, as I've learned over a period of time from reliable sources, so to say, many large retail organizations, especially in India, initially started off with Python and Django and then moved on to Ruby on Rails. So ROR or Ruby on Rails is again something which is, uh, besides, of course, Node.js and the JavaScript stack which is there for creating web apps, but which I am not familiar with as of now to a great extent. Okay, so that's the reason I choose Django. Okay, now introduction to Git and GitHub. So, what exactly is Git and what is GitHub? So, Git is probably, if I'm not wrong, the language, and GitHub is basically the repository versioning, say, portal, so to say, where you can go ahead and what other options do you have? You have Bitbucket, and you have many other options nowadays. But I would still prefer GitHub. It's pretty easy. While we go through the project, I will show you as to how you can keep on posting your code to GitHub so that version history is maintained, and of course for collaboration. So in case more than one developer is working on a project, which is usually the case, then it is easy to collaborate. It is easy to understand as to what came after, what part of the module, or so to say. Okay, so here is a look at GitHub. Okay, I already have it open here, and of course here. Okay, so this is what a GitHub repo looks like. I am sure mostly nowadays all developers have one. So this is what it is, and we shall come back to this. Okay, so intro to Amazon Web Services, Heroku, Python Anywhere for Django online web hosting. So Python Anywhere is mostly Django and other Python web applications. Heroku again generic hosting, just like AWS for many different programming languages, many different platforms. So it's not only Python and Django, but also for Ruby on Rails and other ones which are there for web apps. So I prefer Heroku the most. I've tried all three. AWS was not very friendly to me. It took too much time to put things together, and I remember I did an experimental R installation, so R Studio Server installation on AWS. That was much easier, and that also when I used a Windows system as my desktop. But AWS, I don't necessarily prefer that much. Things are slightly complicated, even though over a period of time they've probably tried to make things simpler. Heroku is what I prefer. It's slightly costlier for paid deployments, but then definitely much better. Python Anywhere has got certain restrictions, so I'll discuss those restrictions. Otherwise, Python Anywhere is the simplest and probably the fastest deployment. But again, or maybe not the fastest. Heroku is still, I think, the faster. But Python Anywhere is quite simple. Okay, so just to show you as to what this looks like. So this is one of the dashboards for one of my logins and couple of apps which are there. Obviously, you can use multiple dashboards, multiple apps can be hosted with multiple email IDs and things to that effect. So yeah, so this is what I have right now. I will come back to this. And this is Python Anywhere. So it's one of the consoles for one of the apps that I have hosted on Python Anywhere. So I think it is this. No. So okay. So I'm already logged in. I'm not sure which app this is. It says no apps. Okay, any which way. So I have couple of apps which are live here. we can see those later on. Okay, so why AWS when you got Heroku? So I kind of explained that, and of course, depending on what you are comfortable with, you could try AWS also as a long-term hosting partner. That's okay. Now the Python environment, the Anaconda with its file managers, Conda or Mini Conda, etc. So why is this required? Because again, just vanilla Python modules or the standard modules which get clubbed along with the language might not be enough for you to develop web apps. So just as an example, Django itself is a Python package. So it's a web app framework, but it is of course a Python package. And if you have Anaconda installed, then all you have to do is create a virtual environment and go ahead and pip install Django. So you could pip install Django 1.9, 1.10, 1.11, whatever it is that you want. So it is that simple. And if you don't have the virtual environment, or if you do not have Anaconda with the package managers, that is Conda or Mini Conda, then these things can be slightly difficult, because then you will have to make sure that it is within your path and things to that effect, which is difficult. Probably easier on a Linux system. On Windows, it is still a headache. Okay, so Jupyter Notebooks on Linux Ubuntu is what I prefer. Again, depending on what you want to do. Okay, so here is the Conda, this thing. So Conda is not only for Python but also for R and Scala, is what I've noticed recently. Initially, I remember, or maybe I could be wrong also. Initially, it was for Python only, and R probably got added on later. So, which is great. So, if it is everything bundled together, which is perfect, so that is great. And you have your Linux installation and your Windows installations. Okay. So now for Jupyter, and why I prefer Jupyter, because it's easier to share your code. It is easier to create all kinds of files. I go ahead and create HTML pages, JavaScript files, .py files, Python notebooks of different Python versions, and do a little bit of visualization of data, very basic this thing within the Jupyter notebooks itself. So those are few things which I can think of offhand. And so it's basically IPython kernel, which is and by kernel I mean the kernel, which is basically running with a HTML GUI. So it's much easier to kind of, and this is what it looks like. So here I have it. So this is my Jupyter notebooks, and this is the actual project. So the one which we'll look at. So let's okay, now back to this. So this is what I prefer as the environment while developing apps on Django and Python. So this is one. Okay, so some more information. So what exactly is a virtual environment? So if you have worked on projects earlier and other programming languages, or even with Python and not necessarily Django, so even for other Python projects, it's recommended that you use a virtual environment. So what exactly is a virtual environment? The virtual environment is basically let's say like a sandbox which is created, which keeps you away from the rest of your your system's packages and software and other things. So you create a virtual shell for yourself, within which whatever changes you make or whatever it is that you do, it does not necessarily impact the rest of your software configurations and others. So that is what is there. And before I get into this, there are two different kind of virtual environments that I am aware of, at least as far as Python is concerned, and they can cause confusion sometimes. One is VNV virtual environment package, which is there, a Python package, and then there is Conda virtual environments. So, or the Anaconda virtual environment. So it's the Anaconda virtual environments that I prefer again, because whatever has been created as a superset, or whatever you've already downloaded as a superset with the Anaconda, all the packages and all are available to you in the Conda virtual environment as such. Okay, and this is again, so list all environments is where I love to go, and I always want to remember this particular command because this is a very useful command. So when you create a lot of virtual environments and sometimes you can't make out as to which one is what, so like over here. So if you see, the first line that I have right on top is source activate Pyte27 infobot. So that source activate is basically activate the virtual environment, and that Pyte27 infobot is my virtual environment. So let me just get out of this. I say source deactivate. Okay, so and then the command which I just copied. So this is all the environments that I have. So some of them where it says Pyte27 are using Python 2.7, and the others are using Python 3.5. So that is one way of distinguishing. And of course, then you could be using, with the same Python version, you could be using different environments for different projects. So that is what is recommended. Okay. So now what I'll do is one second. Yeah. So this is as far as the virtual environments goes, a quick introduction. So of course we'll be using the virtual environments very extensively. Okay, now preview some of the Django applications that I've been creating. So some of them are hosted on Python Anywhere, some of them on Heroku, and there's not many that I have done. Okay, I think I forgot to bump this, so it's kind of expired. Not an issue. Okay. So this one is, it says data science India pythonanywhere.com. It's got nothing to do with data science as of now. So initially I started off this project doing something else altogether. Ultimately it ended up being a very simple online retail store, so to say, wherein you were selling different products. A very simple this thing, and just to show you how it functions. So this is, let's say this is one of the products that you have, and this is your cart. If you go and check out your cart right now, it says your cart is empty. You come back, you go ahead, scroll down and pick up, and you say add to cart. So firstly it gives you a little intimation over here. A JavaScript alert comes up which says that something has been added to your cart. We couldn't see that. It's much more easily visible on mobile. So over here it shows you that it's added one particular product in your cart. Let's again go back to some styles or some categories and see what we have over there. And let's say I want to add this, and I go down here and I say add to cart, and I immediately come up here, successfully added to cart, and I go ahead and click here. So I see, of course, the total amount subtotal has been added, the tax has been calculated, and of course these are just dummy numbers over here. So just showing as to what is possible. And it's a very basic Django app. So this is one that we are going to learn as to how this can be created. And what all is there, so how this can be done. That is one. Then let's look at another one, which is, again, I'll have to just bump these again to extend them, which is okay, we can come back to that. And of course the info bot. Now this one's hosted on Heroku. Like I said, I prefer hosting on Heroku, and this is a much more stable configuration over a period of time. So like it is like it's visible over here, this one is hosted on Heroku, and whereas the same thing I have going on over here on the local machine. So here I have it on the local machine and this one's on Heroku. So we are going to learn as to how this got created. That should be our first app, so to say. And there's another one. So this is the one called hotels, and I already have it open here. So let me just move to this tab. So this is the hotels index. This app is still very much work in progress and still not done. So we'll create this together, and different options we have. Yeah, so this geolocation doesn't seem to be working very well right now, but then there are reasons for it, because I'm not in my usual location. Okay. So this is mostly to do with JavaScript and not that much Python. But then whatever is there, we will go ahead and do this also. So next is pip installs of packages and the git ignore and requirements.txt. So pip installs is basically the most basic way of installing packages for Python. And git ignore, of course, is a file that you go ahead and create, with which you tell the Git system or Heroku's systems wherein you don't want to load certain things onto the cloud. So those there'll be a lot of files which get created, which we probably want to use with the development server on our local machine, but we don't want to upload them onto the cloud or onto the production server. And then of course there is the requirements.txt, and there is the proc file, and there are other things which are there, which at least for Heroku there are very easily laid down guidelines which we need to follow. So now we should start off with creating our first project and see as to how that can be done.